In the beginning, the story opens with the sun, which starts to emit massive solar flares. These flares send powerful waves of electromagnetic radiation toward Earth. When the radiation arrives, it devastates the planet, wiping out 99% of all life. Only a small number of humans survive, and they are determined to bring Earth back to how it once was. But with so few people left, the task seems impossible. To help rebuild, they create advanced robots to assist them. These robots are programmed with two important rules. They must never harm a human, and only humans can control them. The robots take on many tasks, even bringing rain to the barren land. Over time, they begin to form connections with the remaining humans, helping in every way they can. 20 years pass, and it is now the year 2044. For 2 decades, humans and robots have worked together to survive and restore Earth. But suddenly, things start to change. Malfunctions begin showing up in the robots, causing many of them to stop working properly. The humans, once relying on these machines, now feel anxious and start to see the robots as a threat. Fearing what might happen if the malfunctions worsen, they decide to start destroying the robots. In this new world, humans live in safe cities, built to protect them from the harsh conditions outside. One day, a police officer enters a factory and finds a yellow-colored robot sitting inside, trying to repair itself. As the officer raises his gun, the robot pleads, "Please don't kill me, I'm just fixing myself." But the officer ignores the plea and shoots the robot anyway. Elsewhere, we meet Jack, an insurance investigator. As Jack continues investigating the robots, he receives a complaint from a man claiming his robot killed his dog. When Jack arrives at the man's home, the man angrily demands, "Take these useless machines away and give me my insurance payout." Jack notices a knife nearby and picks it up, holding it close to his own hand. But before he can do anything, the knife slips and falls onto Jack's hand. In a swift movement, the robot catches the knife, preventing any injury. Jack looks at the man and says, "These robots are designed to protect all living beings. They're incapable of harm. Your claim is denied." The next day, Jack is called to the site where the yellow robot was shot by the police officer. He learns that someone tampered with the robot's parts, which is why it had been trying to repair itself. Hearing this, Jack feels a deep sympathy for the deactivated robot and brings it up with his boss, explaining how it was unnecessarily deactivated. His boss responds, "The police were just doing their job." But Jack insists someone is illegally modifying these robots, altering their programming in dangerous ways. His boss pauses, then finally offers, "If you can bring me solid proof of this tampering, I'll authorize your transfer out of the city." Motivated by the chance to leave the city, a transfer he's wanted for years, Jack heads to an active construction site to start his investigation, determined to uncover the truth. At a construction site filled with robots hard at work, Jack questions the supervisor, "Why do you discard the robots like this?" The supervisor shrugs, explaining, "Whenever a robot shows even a minor defect, we throw them down into the slums. They're no use to us after that." He points down to the slums below, where the poorest people live. "If anyone down there tries to grab a discarded robot, we take action. We can't risk people modifying them to create something dangerous." Determined, Jack heads down to the slums and sees robots with broken parts and somber, almost resigned expressions. Just as he approaches one of them, the robot self-destructs in a flash of fire. Jack feels a pang of sorrow. He has always felt a sense of respect and empathy for the robots, and witnessing this leaves him disturbed. Leaving the slums, Jack returns to his company's lab. During an inspection, he finds something alarming inside one of the robots, a nuclear battery, something no human had ever installed in any robot. He reports this discovery to his boss, who instructs him to investigate where it came from. Following a lead, Jack meets a researcher who examines the battery and concludes, "This doesn't look like the work of any human. I suspect another robot made it and installed it." Perplexed, Jack leaves and spends the night turning over these thoughts in his mind, particularly about the yellow robot shot by the police. The next morning, he revisits the factory where it was deactivated. Searching the area, he finds yet another nuclear battery nearby, which takes him by surprise. He confronts the police officer who shot the yellow robot and shows him the battery. The officer, equally puzzled, offers, "I know someone who might be able to help us." Together, they visit a woman who leads them to a female robot that has been heavily modified. Unlike other robots, this one has the ability to harm humans and even build new robots, which is strictly against the rules. "Who created this robot?" Jack asks the woman. "I don't know," she responds, refusing to reveal anything further. Frustrated, the police officer loses patience and fires at the robot's leg, leg, shattering it. After leaving, the policeman confides in Jack, "I damaged the robot on purpose. Now that woman will have to go back to wherever she bought it. We can follow her from there." Jack nods thoughtfully, replying, "And we have the nuclear battery. Whoever made that robot will likely want to buy it back." The policeman adds, "Any payment we get will split 50-50. With that, they tail the woman, who eventually stops outside a large, imposing house. Jack and the officer follow her inside, where they meet another woman, a doctor. They ask her, "Who modified this robot?" The doctor replies, "I don't know who did it, but I believe it was necessary. Robots creating other robots could make each generation stronger and more efficient." Jack disagrees with this idea and immediately destroys the female robot's CPU, refusing to let it develop further. He then shows the nuclear battery to the doctor. "If you find out who's behind these modifications, I'll give you this battery," he offers. And he also provides her with the location of the yellow robot that had tried to repair itself. Later, Jack briefs his boss, who urges him to resolve the case as soon as possible. Not long after, the doctor contacts Jack again. She reveals that she has installed the software from the yellow robot into the female robot, explaining, "Now it only repairs itself. This software is advanced. It can not only enable self-repair, but also allow it to create other robots like itself." Just as she's explaining, there's a knock on the door. The doctor opens it to find a group of children, but to Jack's horror, they pull out weapons and shoot her. In the chaos, Jack narrowly manages to escape. He rushes to his car only to find the female robot already sitting in the passenger seat. They speed away together, but soon after, they're involved in a crash, leaving both of them injured. The next morning, when Jack regains consciousness, he finds the female robot beside him, diligently repairing herself. He tries to say something, but his strength fails him, and he slips back into unconsciousness. When he awakens again, Jack sees two additional robots standing alongside the female robot. Together, the three robots lift him and begin to carry him away from the city. Jack, disoriented and struggling to recover, pleads with them, "We need to go back to the city. That's where I need to be." But the robots don't trust his words, convinced that leaving the city is in his best interest. Determined, Jack eventually breaks away from the group and starts back toward the city alone. But his injuries quickly overwhelm him, and he collapses, fainting once more. As he comes to, he feels the female robot feeding him small insects and offering him water, doing everything in its power to keep him alive. It's then that he realizes these robots are devoted to helping humans. They mean no harm, despite humans treating them as enemies. From his location, Jack manages to send a message to his boss, including his coordinates. His boss picks up the signal and promptly dispatches the police officer to Jack's location. The next day, Jack becomes aware that the officer is closing in. Thinking quickly, he tells the robots he needs to step away to use the bathroom. Slipping behind a large rock, he fires a flare gun to signal the officer, but the robots see the flare and realize Jack is trying to summon his human allies. Undeterred, the robots continue moving forward, insisting they have to leave the area for safety. Jack, desperate to prevent a conflict, tries to reason with them, but they refuse to change course. With no other choice, Jack attacks the robots, targeting the areas of their bodies where their batteries are connected. During the struggle, the nuclear battery dislodges from one of the robots, clattering to the ground. The police officer soon arrives and, revealing his true motives, grabs the battery. It's a highly valuable item, and he's willing to kill for it. Without hesitation, he shoots one of the robots and then turns his gun on the others. Horrified, Jack reacts quickly and uses his flare gun to fire at the officer, fatally wounding him before he can destroy the other robots. Moments later, another officer, a companion of the first, appears on the scene. Seizing the opportunity, he snatches the nuclear battery and escapes, leaving Jack and the remaining robots alone amid the dust and chaos. As the injured robot is tended to by its companion, Jack speaks to them that evening. "If you help me reach the city, I'll get the battery you need," he promises. The female robot nods, replying, "We'll leave in the morning." Elsewhere, the policeman's partner, who escaped with the nuclear battery, recounts the recent events to Jack's boss. During their conversation, another man approaches Jack's boss, explaining, "When we created these robots, we placed two safeguards. They wouldn't modify themselves, and they would never harm humans. Despite many attempts, no one has managed to bypass their systems until now. It's astonishing and troubling. This change means they could now pose a threat to humanity." At dawn, Jack wakes to find only the female robot nearby. Confused, he asks, "Where are the others?" She replies, "They went ahead to explore a path forward." Together, they continue on their journey and soon encounter a figure sitting quietly on the roadside. Jack approaches him, and as the figure lowers his hood, Jack realizes he is not human, but a robot known as the Blue Robot, who is stationed near an old factory. Curious, Jack follows the Blue Robot inside the factory, where he is startled to see an assembly line of robot parts and automated machines constructing new robots. Jack steps steps out of the factory, filled with a longing to return home. He's eager to be with his family, knowing his wife is expecting their child. Yet despite his anticipation, a deep sadness weighs on him as he stares out over the desolate landscape. Just then, the blue robot approaches him, breaking the silence. "There was once a river here," he says, a hint of nostalgia in his robotic voice. "But time has changed everything, including us. We robots have evolved, just as the world has. Now humans and robots must find a way to coexist." The blue robot explains the current state of the Earth, describing vast radioactive areas where humans can no longer survive. "But we can," he continues, "and that's where we wish to go. To make this future possible, we need the battery you hold." Understanding their intentions, Jack hands over the battery. He realizes that these robots, modified over time, have developed a desire to live peacefully alongside humans. The blue robot, who has created others like himself, has a vision of a shared existence on Earth, adapting as their surroundings have. Meanwhile, Jack's boss arrives at the scene where the policeman's lifeless body was found. Another agent joins him, expressing grave concerns about the emerging robots, viewing them as a dangerous threat to humanity. In a ruthless move, they reveal they have kidnapped Jack's wife, Jane, and her newborn child, holding them as leverage. Disturbed by this brutal action, Jack's boss hesitates, raising his gun in protest. But before he can act, the agents turn on him, firing and leaving him behind as they set out to locate Jack and the other robots. Back at the factory, the blue robot and his companion, having received the battery from Jack, insert it into a robotic dog they've crafted. The moment the battery connects, the robotic dog powers on, coming to life with newfound energy, symbolizing the beginning of a new era for these evolved machines. The robots repair a car for Jack, allowing him to drive back to the city and eventually return to his home. Before departing, he turns to the female robot and says, "Forgive me, I should have understood sooner." With that, he drives off. As he travels a short distance, Jack spots his boss, barely clinging to life. He rushes to his side, and his boss, in his final moments, tells him, "They've taken your wife and newborn. Save them." Meanwhile, the captors holding Jack's wife and child stop and step out of their vehicle, only to be confronted by the blue robot. They demand he move aside, but the blue robot stands firm, declaring, "I won't listen to any of you." In response, they open fire, fatally wounding him and forcibly removing his hard drive. Moments later, the female robot arrives but is also shot down. Jack soon arrives at the scene in his car and, despite his injuries, fights back against his enemies, taking each one down. Exhausted and weaponless, Jack is left vulnerable as the last adversary, their leader, approaches him with a gun. Just as he's about to fire, the robotic dog leaps forward, attacking the man and bringing him down, ultimately ending the threat. In the aftermath, Jack's wife appears, holding their newborn daughter. Seeing them safe fills Jack with joy. The female robot, injured but resilient, also approaches, thanking him one last time. With a final look of gratitude, Jack turns to his wife and daughter, and together they head back to the city. And so, the story concludes. I hope you enjoyed the story.